Welcome to Web3 and Me, presented by FLOLiO. On today's show, Dan and I are going to recap the week in NFTs, including BAYC liquidation drama, Moonbirds future-proof preview, Pudgy Penguins are on fire, we absolutely love to see it, and much more. Before we get going, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and most importantly, head to FLOLiO.com, FLOLiO.com, for all of your NFT needs, including our free portfolio evaluations and browser extension. And right before we get into it, nothing we say today is financial advice. Please do your own research. We are recapping some news, giving our takes, but Lord knows we don't get everything right. So do your due diligence before making any buy or sell decisions. Dan, it's a lovely Friday. How are we doing over there in the Netherlands?
Doing good. I got my cat with me. She's over there. She's chilling. She's also listening in.
She's very bored. Does that count as a viewer on YouTube if we have the cat?
I don't
you get
think
her
so,
an account?
unfortunately. If I get her an account, yes, then I would count. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I mean, the market has been interesting. Nothing great, mostly bad stuff, and that we're going to be going into it. Mostly the bad stuff.
We got to touch on some good stuff too. Like
there's some good stuff. There's some good
you know,
stuff.
our friends over at Pudgy Penguins, our guy Luca Netz, who is just absolutely killing it with the Penguins, which we totally love to see. So as we jump into it, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the 7-day chart over on FLOLiO.com, and so we can kind of look at where things are at the moment. And I mean, it's not great, as you were saying. We look over here, we see that the volume, it's ugly. It's a lot of red here. We see Bored Ape Yacht Club absolutely getting slaughtered. We'll get into that later. Other Deeds is down to almost 1.5 ETH.
Yeah.
Mutant Ape Yacht Club just under 13. Moonbirds have passed Mutant Apes. They're back to 14. They're recovering. We'll talk about them more. The Aliens, which was one of the free mints last week that was getting a ton of run, it touched like 0.75, 0.7.
Wow.
It's down to 0.09. Rare Ape Pepes, which was up to 1 last week, that's down to 0.35. No one should be surprised by that, but it still just goes to show you that there is a lot of blood in the NFT streets at the moment.
Yeah, and also just touching on the potatoes there, because they lost 25%. They had their basically like the beginning of their reveal as well. Okay. So that kind of impacted the floor a bit. And in general, mostly everything is bleeding as well.
Yeah, the floors are getting destroyed at the moment. And I think there's obviously a lot going on. We have we won't get in too much onto economic stuff, because neither of us by any means are economists. But like the overall, I saw the chart today and I'm not going to nerd out too much, but like the inflation report came out of Germany today, and they've seen 37% inflation, and their energy cost is like 100% up year over year. So like, I don't think people in NFT land who spend all their time on Twitter are understanding the extent to which like the global economy is an absolute dumpster fire right now, and how that is going to impact the value of ETH, and in turn people's willingness to buy speculative assets like NFTs, like cryptocurrency. So I think if you were expecting the market to bounce back, both crypto and NFT, here in the coming months, you may be very, very disappointed, because no matter how much confidence you have in ETH, in Bitcoin, they're still very speculative assets. And that's how, and you and I might see that they are, long term, a great play, but most people don't see that. And so when they're trying to figure out where they want to put their money to be safe, it's not going into an asset like ETH and Bitcoin, and it's certainly not going into NFTs. So I think you have to be prepared for the fact that it's going to be a bumpy road for a while, and that's okay. But try to focus on doing something other than just looking at doom scrolling Twitter and looking at floor prices.
Yeah. So gas prices in my country, it's up 300%. So
I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah. They had a poll or something going on where it was like, we have like low earners, so people like underneath, like beneath the average, and then mid earners and high earners. 80% of low earners need financial support to live, and 50% of middle earners need financial support to live here now. It's completely like bonkers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that I assume a lot of people are maybe selling their crypto, selling their NFTs for crypto, and then converting it to fiat to live. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's not great because I think that in order for people to buy NFTs, they need to buy, like, generally they need to buy crypto. So if crypto is bleeding and it's the volume of crypto is low, then I mean naturally the volume on NFTs is going to be a bit lower as well, and that's something we can see. Like volume has been an issue for the last, like, what, I mean, I don't know, 2-3 months or something. Just very low
Yeah.
numbers, so all around.
It's been low ever since like early May, so it's been over 3 months now. And you know, a lot of people, myself included, at first, were not a huge fan of some of these projects taking money from VCs, venture
Yeah,
capitalists. But now we're starting to see that like it's almost a necessity for a lot of them to
yeah.
stay afloat long run. Like the
Mm-hmm.
the royalties just aren't there right now. Like the sales volume is not there for them to continue to expand their teams and to continue to grow their businesses, because it's time that people start looking at it like, I no longer view Bored Ape Yacht Club as an NFT project. Like it is a full blown business.
Yeah,
I mean, it just is. It's getting very mainstream, but a lot of these projects will not have the royalties to cover, and allow them to continue to grow. Like people aren't going to just work for them for free on the hope and prayer that they come back. Like it's going to get ugly for a lot of these projects that haven't managed their money well, that aren't getting royalties, that haven't taken funding, and we're going to see a lot of them start to drop off.
yeah. So, and it's interesting because,
Hold the
um,
line, or Ola.
oh, there he is. Uh, apparently, apparently Cool Cats has been converting to fiat ever since their inception. So they've got
Okay,
a huge war chest to work with, and
that's
that's
good.
like projects nowadays that if a project was holding ETH all the time, yeah, get wrecked. Like that must hurt.
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of jump into some of these, winners and losers of the week. On Wednesday, the Proof Collective team, led by Kevin Rose, had their preview for Future Proof later this month. It was very well received by holders. Some of the big things that come out of that were, the Moonbird oddities were not well received when they officially initially
Yeah,
revealed. They're going to be, to some extent, deflationary, where people are going to be able to burn them. The floor of oddities rose from like the 0.7, 0.8 range to 1.2. I think it's pulled back just a little bit, but it's still probably, that seems like a decent bet right now if they're going to have them be deflationary.
yeah,
And I have a feeling that they understand how poorly received that was initially, and whatever they're going to be from a deflationary standpoint is probably going to be pretty cool. I would venture a guess. If you still have confidence in this team, like I have a hard time thinking that, you know, they're going to make the same mistake twice. But if they do, it's basically like game over for Moonbirds.
yeah. I wonder if this is their attempt to recreate the collection with new metadata, essentially. Maybe looking back, they don't necessarily like the art, and they think
Yeah.
it may have a negative effect on the project, and maybe they're going to be burning those for 1-to-1. You can burn maybe one oddity for one other thing.
Yeah. Kevin Rose basically said that the expectations got way out of hand, which I think is part on the community, but part on the team as well. Like, I will say that the Moonbirds team, they tend to hype things up a little bit
Yeah,
more. And, like, you know, one thing that Yuga did well from the jump was under promise and over deliver. And
yeah,
you can definitely say that like they don't communicate enough. That's fair. But they also never fully showed their hand. So, there were a few times like when the mutants came out last year where they got things hyped up a little bit. But I think they saw that got too out of hand, and they've
yeah,
pulled back from that since then. But it seems like Moonbirds is like, they've talked about, Project High Rise, what they're building with their own kind of social metaverse, the Ravens, nesting. Like they keep going back. It seems like they keep going back and forth on like what nesting is and isn't. Like when I'll refer to it as Fanny Pack Gate, but when Fanny Pack Gate happened, you know the team and the holders were like, oh, nesting is just like supposed to be this fun little thing. It's not a
yeah,
big deal. But then on the call, Kevin Rose said, "Oh, you're definitely going to want to have your Moonbird nested on the day of future proof," indicating that like something big is coming. He's basically confirmed that there's going to be a token coming out, which the project hasn't even been around. It's been around for about 4 months now. That's very early to be dropping. They've done the Oddities collection. They're going to do the Ravens collection, and then they're going to do a token and a metaverse. Like all of this in pretty short amount of time. And on one of the community calls, they said they have like 25 people working for them. Like that's a lot of people. That's not a lot of people to be doing all of these things.
Yeah, like, and there's much smaller projects with way more employees. What are they doing with? What was it, like 30 employees or something? How much?
I think 25 on the town. They said on the town hall a couple weeks ago. What
are you gonna do with that amount of people and that project? You need to double that essentially.
For sure, and it's I don't know. Like I hope for the holder's sake that it goes well, but I still have some skepticism just around like I said, the over-promising, revealing too much too soon. Like the expectations are sky high already. And they were sky high going into it because it's Kevin Rose and people believe in him, and that's fair. That's their prerogative. But I would definitely, if I was holding, I wouldn't be panicking, but I would be willing to cut ship if I saw one more misstep, probably. But that's just me.
Yeah. And speaking about under-promising, the other side, like, damn, now that's being under-promised. Like, we haven't seen much of an update the last month. It's kind of going like the Doodles direction of communication, but I guess like there isn't much that they could say, I guess, other than maybe development updates they could do. But I'm hoping for some Voyage announcement anytime soon. Like, 'cause it's been over a month now.
Tomorrow it'll be like 4 or 5 weeks since the first time. So, and there's 10 more of those to go. That being said, it was very obvious that this was not going to be like a 6-month thing where it was ready to go. Mm-hmm. Like this is a best case scenario, probably like 2 years. Like this is going to be a long-term thing, which I think is definitely playing into, part of why the floor is going down on other deeds, which I sold some of them near the top. So I'm very happy about that. I'm holding some other ones and just kind of like playing with house money at this point, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. So we can definitely transition into BAYC. There are 3 different things I want to discuss regarding BAYC. First, which has been the big conversation on Twitter the last couple of days, is the Bend DAO liquidation issues that are going on. So for those who don't know, and if you're on Twitter following NFTs, you know at this point, but Bend DAO is a site where you can go and take out a loan against your NFT. So you can get like a 40% loan based on the floor price of your NFT, which like if you have rare NFTs, you should never do this, obviously, because you're not getting the value of the NFT. Like you're just getting the floor price. So a lot of people took out loans against their NFT. And this was something that notable collector Franklin, who has like 59 apes, and he has like these slideshows and all this crap. He's done a very good job of using that liquidity and turning it into more money and more apes and building his portfolio that way. But let's just be very honest. The vast majority of people have no business doing that, right? Like that is a terrible idea for 95% of people out there. Like I would never do that because I'm not good enough at flipping NFTs to be able to make that money back without fear of losing my ape, right? So what we're starting to see is people took out loans. There's a point in the contract where if the floor for apes hits this level and you haven't paid your loan back, that loan now belongs to Ben DAO, and they will begin an auction for that ape. And if they can't find a seller, they just kind of like hold it in perpetuity until the floor goes back up and they can, reclaim their money from it. But it's a really bad situation, and we're seeing it with mutants as well. Like this is part of why the ape and mutant floor has been plummeting, is like people are panicking, trying to get liquidity so they can pay back their loans. And, I think there's something in the ballpark of like 30 to 40 apes that could be liquidated, if the floor price goes down another 10, 15%.
Yeah, I saw like a really long thread about someone going over like the possible upper or downsides of this whole fiasco.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something like, if those apes aren't being, bought, then you can see like this whole like downward spiral of people undercutting each other over and over again until the floor is absolutely decimated. I do think the demand is still there. Like I don't think the demand has like diminished or anything. I just think like so many people are hesitant on spending their ETH, and it's been like this for a long time now.
And I'm also wondering too if people see what's going on and are like, well, I'm just going to wait, let
Yeah.
these get liquidated, and then try to buy them in at a lower point, which totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's also kind of the conspiracy theories, which I don't think are unfounded at all, that people may just be like undercutting the floor on purpose to try to get them liquidated
Yeah.
to to try to buy one cheap. Real quick before we keep going, I just want to say thank you to everyone watching. Antonio, Tor, S. Williams, thank you so much for watching the show. We really appreciate you guys being here. But yeah, it's been a mess, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. And I put out a tweet the other day saying that I used to think that the founders executing on their plan and the roadmap was the biggest risk to BAYC. But I'm starting to think that it may be the holders themselves that are one of the bigger risks to the project's value long term. Because if people keep doing these loans and keep hurting the floor, others may not want to jump in. And there's been a lot of very, poor decisions by Bored Ape holders. And, you can do whatever you want with your ape. It's your money. You do it. You do you. But it's something that I've been thinking about of like, I have more faith in the team to deliver than I do in the community to not screw something up at this point.
I mean, apes are deflationary, right? So.
Yeah, I guess deflationary in that they can be deflated into someone else's wallet if they put their seed phrase in. Let's touch real quick on the celebratory Twitter Spaces, as well as their appearance on another slightly more mainstream YouTube show than ours, which is hard to believe. They only have like 1.6 million subscribers. But there was a celebratory Twitter Spaces Tuesday night for the Bored Ape Yacht Club Twitter account hitting 1 million followers. I was under the belief going into it that you shouldn't expect anything as far as an announcement goes. Like, just have low expectations. And clearly people didn't follow that because there was a lot of negative sentiment when they didn't make some huge, crazy announcement. And even the team addressed it in the spaces. Like, Gargamel, one of the founders, was like, we're not announcing anything big tonight. Gordon Goner was like, guys, I know you want one of our famous, fuck it tweets where we just say what's going to happen. But these days, their ambitions are so big that it takes time and they can't rush things out. Right. So, early on, they could get more stuff out when it was smaller, at a faster pace. But now they really have to be very deliberate because, and Gordon said it, like, he doesn't want anything to seem low effort. He wants everything to be like top notch, best quality possible. And that takes a lot of time. And as a holder, I'm totally on board with that. Like, I'm in no rush. My apes are chilling in my cold storage. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to hang out, and whatever happens, happens. So there was that, and they also went on the Full Send show, which is a very popular YouTube show. Apparently, you should not read. If you want to feel bad about NFTs, you should go read the comments of it. I have no interest in reading the comments on that show, but apparently that didn't go over great.
That seems terrible. And what they did mention was on that show, they had a small segment about the floor price, and one of the founders, they mentioned that they don't even look at it. That it's just such like a number that doesn't really care, that doesn't really matter to them, and that they just completely focus on providing value in the long term. And that's good to hear. At least so many projects, they freak out when the floor goes down and they're like, oh no, and Bored Ape knows. Like, Bored Ape has experienced this, right? They've gone up, they've gone down a lot, so they know the what do you call it?
Yeah,
the ropes.
And
the
current pullback on the BAYC floor after other deeds is like over 50%. It's right in line where it went down after Mutants came out, because the floor then went from like 63 to 29. Difference being, I don't see it recovering as quickly now because there's just a lot of other things going on the bigger, macro economic side of it. But I think that's a perfect transition into talking about Goblin Town for a second, in regards to founders and their concern for floor price. So Alex Taub, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, one of the founders of the Truth Team, which started Goblin Town, he had to put out a Twitter thread yesterday, and I felt bad for the guy because basically saying that like he's getting DMs from people about why is the floor price going down and all this stuff, and he basically talked about how like him even doing this thread goes against their team's rules about talking about floor price. Like they're just like the BAYC founders. They don't want to talk about floor price. They just want to build stuff. And I think this speaks to a bigger problem in the NFT space of people's expectations of, the floor price should only go up. And if it doesn't, that's the founder's fault. I'm pretty sure the founders aren't the ones that are listing these things for sale.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't understand what people expect from the Goblin Town team, because in the last few months, I'm not a holder of Goblin Town, but I'm going to absolutely say something about the fact that like they've delivered really cool stuff.
Yeah.
They've built a cool brand in a short period of time, and people need to get their heads out of their asses and just chill out. Like we've reached this point in NFTs where it's very clear that a lot of people are overinvested and are panicking. And if that's the case, like just sell and get out, guys, because it's going to be, it takes these brands a long time to build something cool. It doesn't happen overnight. So it really bummed me out to see. You could tell, sorry, Dan, but you could tell just in the way that he was talking in the Twitter thread that he was really beaten down and felt bad about the fact that the floor was going down. And that's not what you want the founders of your project to be focusing on. You want them to be making cool stuff and trying to innovate and push their brand forward, not answering DMs about why the floor price is going down.
Yeah, and it's something that I wanted to mention is that the reason behind why floor price doesn't matter is because of the philosophy that it'll eventually follow your project anyway, right? As long as you keep on providing value, then floor price should follow over time. It doesn't matter if it's not at where it should be right now, because it could be either overvalued or undervalued. For example, you could be an absolutely amazing soccer player, right? But you're not playing in the Champions League. What are you gonna do? Quit? What are you gonna go to Twitter and say, "Well, I play in second league, so like I think like oh, I used to be in the first league, but now I'm second league, so yeah, it's not going well," or something, Like it doesn't matter. You should just focus on playing well, and eventually the results will come. So that's definitely an issue that projects have. They're maybe too result oriented to a point where they're like, oh, we provide a lot of value, and now our floor is 2 ETH, we're amazing, and then nothing changed, and it's, oh no, our floor is 1 ETH because of global economic reasons, right? Like honestly, no real reason within the project itself that the floor is going down, and they're like freaking out. So focus on providing value and building, and the rest will come eventually.
And I think this speaks to a bigger, the mindset of NFT. If you want to call yourself a trader, collector, whatever the hell it is, the mindset has to change because the market has changed dramatically from this time a year ago. Like, not every project is minting out right away. Floors aren't going up right away. Like, the market has changed, and your expectations need to change with it. Because if you, like from a financial and a mental health standpoint, if you're getting like this beaten up, if you're beating yourself up and you're getting this upset over the floor prices going down during a time where the price of everything is going down, it's going to be a really shaky time for you. So I think people just need to adjust their expectations because they're going to make better decisions that way. Like, no one makes a good trading decision when they're full of emotion. Like, that just doesn't happen, right? Like, and that takes experience, that takes time to learn that lesson. But I'm telling you, like, do not make emotional decisions, and take a bigger picture and look at like some of these brands, comparable Web2 brands, and how long it took them to build something great. Like, it takes years, many years, decades sometime, right? So just take a step back, let if you have faith in a team to build something cool, just leave them alone, encourage them to build. Don't like give them a hard time because the floor price is going down. Speaking of great teams who you and I both support, it's been awesome to see the Pudgy Penguins over the last couple of months, man.
Yeah.
I looked back, it was May that we had Luca Nets on the show. I'd love to get him back on here in a couple of months to do like a 6-month follow-up. But, Pudgy Penguins have had a great week. Everything that Lucas said on that show, he's starting to deliver on, right? Like, he's building out the brand. A few things that happened this week. They launched their own marketplace. So now you can buy and sell Pudgies on their marketplace with lower fees. You're not paying the OpenSea. If you don't like OpenSea, great. You don't need to pay that fee to OpenSea anymore. The money just goes to Pudgies, and the seller gets to keep more. That's fantastic. They had Luca put out the first preview of a picture of the Pudgy toys. They look great.
Look amazing. It looks great. Yeah.
They look so good. I would love a better resolution picture because it's funny in this screenshot you can see Luca needs a better camera. But beside that, the toys themselves look awesome. Like, I will absolutely buy one of those for my son. They're so cool looking. And then they also now offer a site where you can get personalized phone wallpaper of your Pudgy. That may not be a huge thing. That doesn't obviously push the floor price up, but I think it goes to what we said before of founders and creators kind of building stuff, and it's the little things that add up that create more value, that show that a team cares about its community and cares about the brand that they're building.
Yeah, and the picture you sent was so cool, and I wonder. The one thing I do wonder about is because they are licensed out by random holders essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how their deal works. Right? I wonder if they're paid a flat amount or if they pay according to sales percentage or something. Either way, I'm curious about the numbers.
Yeah, I would venture it's a flat amount. I've
Yeah.
talked to some people who have done similar licensing deals with their NFTs, and usually it's a flat amount up front. And I would venture a guess that's the case with Pudgies. I'm not going to speculate what that number could be because I don't have the slightest idea.
$1 million.
That would be something. I don't think that's the case, Dan. Especially when the floor of those is just under 3 ETH, which, hey, it's up in a big way. They're doing great. The Pudgy community seems to be very strong at the moment, and I'm still thinking that they're going to do more cool stuff. Obviously, he talked about a Pudgy Penguins game that still is probably months and months away, I would venture, I guess, because it doesn't sound like Luca wanted to rush it. He wanted to create something that first and foremost was very fun to play, and you can't just make that up out of thin air. So I still think that there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming to the Pudgy Penguins.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think it'll be great to get him on again. Maybe we should drop him a DM after this show.
Absolutely. So we had a few other, projects that we've talked about previously. Actually, earlier this week, we did a show talking about projects that are building really cool stories and lore behind them. I recommend everyone go back and watch that. It was a fun episode. 10KTF, they had their opening, began last night, of their combat crates. So far, more than half the crates have been opened. We've seen the floor price remain pretty steady. It ran up to about 0.7, and the supply was very low at that time. Floor prices come back down to about 0.63, which is still great because it was about a 0.5 ETH mint. The listings are low, only 155 listed for sale still. So really cool. I'm very excited about 10KTF. I get excited about a project when I show something about it to my wife, and she gets excited because she is very much like a Web2 consumer. She kind of gets NFTs, and she's been very supportive of my time in NFTs. But she saw the trailer. I showed her the trailer video from 10KTF they dropped a couple months ago, and her eyes got big. She got super excited, and she was like, "Is there more of that? Can we watch more? Is there more of the story? Is Wagmi-san?" She was asking all these questions, and I was like, "That's when you know that they're onto something." When people who aren't really into NFTs are very compelled by the storyline that an NFT business is building. So that got me even more excited about 10KTF. I actually went out and bought a few more combat crates after that because I'm like, okay, she got excited. My wife has been very smart about this stuff. She was very encouraging to me getting into Bored Apes early on. So I'm gonna follow suit here and buy a few more 10KTF combat crates. Not financial advice. Don't buy just because I did.
There you go. I'm gonna spend my life savings on 10KTF.
Your final 0.63 ETH that you have to your name on a combat crate.
Yeah.
No, but I'm hoping that this story will continue to evolve. We'll be able to use the items from the combat crate and fight this kaiju that we saw in the video because it's looking pretty cool.
Yeah, fuck him. Just kidding.
Bobo, please
There you go,
don't do
guys.
it. Don't do it. Uh, Next, we have Huxley Saga. They have the mint for their humans today. It started yesterday, I believe. The next part is today. There's the robots. If you own a robot, you can mint tomorrow. So that is starting to happen. I think that's getting more attention to Huxley, which is long overdue because they've been building out a very cool project there. If you haven't heard of them, hey, guess what? We did an interview with them as well. That was great, and I would check that out. I believe they're doing a live stream of the mint. It starts at noon Pacific Standard Time. So in about an hour and a half, it gives you plenty of time to watch the rest of our show. And then if you want to check out what they're doing, head over to the Huxley Twitter account. We had a few other things I want you to touch on, Dan. Genuine Undead. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I put it on the list because it was just one of these, one of the gazillion free mint projects. And the art was pretty good. For once, it wasn't like one of these AI projects. And they minted on the 13th of August. And I believe yesterday they went up to a floor of zero point 0.2, which is a lot because I think that they have a unique ownership of 30% or 29%. So that's not great because I think maybe they could mint 3 per person or maybe 2 per person or something. So yeah, imagine minting something for free like a few days ago and then suddenly being able to sell it for zero point 0.2. That's like there's still
Pretty good.
things there's still like profits to be made in this market, but it just it's very hard. But I think that's why the free mints just do well. The risk is pretty low, but in general, always be careful with what you mint and use a hot wallet, please. Don't be stupid.
They touched 0.3, so thank you for
Point
that.
three.
That's pretty
There you
crazy.
go.
I
Yeah.
was listening to a Twitter space the other morning and they talked about it when they were like 0.02, and just like Rare Pepe's, I don't really. This is another example of like I don't try to flip NFTs because I'm always behind. Like if I find out about these things early, I usually get caught up and I don't pay attention to it enough to like get out of it in time. So I just don't want to be left holding the bag on some of these things, and I feel like that's most of the time for me the more likely outcome. Like I'm better at buying something, holding it for weeks, months, longer, and then trying to find a good exit point. That's the
Yeah. So
game. That's the game I'm confident I can win at.
yeah. The thing with these kind of projects is it's rough. Like these free mint projects, they go up pretty quickly and then they go down even faster. Like it's very very sketchy to try to like flip it. For genuine undead, I don't know whether I don't know what their plans are. It seems like a real project, but there's so many of these AI projects that are coming like out of nowhere, going to a point 1 floor and then wee all the way down to like 0 in like a day. So still profits to be made, but be careful and don't get wrecked, of course.
And then with that, we have the newest meta, which is AI projects.
Yeah.
A lot of those have been popping up, making a little run up, and then just crashing back down.
Yeah.
So
I think they all use the Mid Journey AI bot to like just like generate a shit ton of like characters and then be like, oh yeah, we're AI demons coming to terrorize the metaverse. Mint now. That's how all of them speak. I don't know. It's always the same.
listen,
So
at this point, it just seems like a lot of people want to gamble. So
yeah,
here's my advice: football season is starting. If you bet the closing lines on college and NFL games, you're much closer to 50-50 than you are of making profit
true.
on any of these NFTs. Not telling you to sports bet, but if you need to scratch that gambling itch, maybe do that or go to 7-Eleven and buy a scratcher for $5 because a lot these like derivatives and these free mints, like one out of literally 100,000 is going to be a goblin town that,
Yeah.
becomes something more than just a quick, cash grab. So just be very aware of that. The last thing on the agenda today is the discussion that's been starting around the ability to chart NFTs the way that people chart altcoins or Bitcoin, Ethereum, stuff like that. So notable Twitter crypto influencer and YouTube guy Crypto Kaleo put out a tweet yesterday, basically trying to chart. I'm going to share the picture now. Trying to chart the Bored Ape Yacht Club floor, and saying that like, if apes break the support, like I don't understand technical analysis. I'm just kind of going off of what he said, looking at like talking about there's a head and shoulders pattern and the support line and the demand zones. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a technical analyst by any means, trying to compare NFTs to fungible tokens and using the same sort of technical analysis is not the right strategy to take. Like, there's a lot more going on with a limited supply NFT out of 10,000 compared to a coin. And yes, coins can definitely be sentiment driven. If we get negative, economic sentiment, it's going to impact the price of ETH and BTC. But it's just taken to a higher level with NFTs. There's things to keep in mind when it comes to, the roadmap of a project and what they're delivering, and understanding, how to trade these non-fungible tokens and how to evaluate the ecosystem they're in and trade that. Like, I don't know if this guy's ever even owned an ape, but as someone who has done very well trading Bored Apes over the last year, I can tell you that there's more to it than just trying to draw lines on a chart and saying that, if the floor goes below this point, it's going way below this point. It's like, that's just not the case. You can't extrapolate out the exact same logic for trading crypto as you can for trading NFTs. Dan, am I wrong here? Like, am I out of my mind?
No, I think you're right.
Don't answer that. Actually, don't answer that question, that second part, but answer the first one.
Okay, this is the first one. No, I think you're right. Like I don't know. Like, at this point, it's just like astrology, right? Like, or whatever it's called. Like, if your star sign is this, then floor go up or something. If it's full moon tonight, then I can see. If
Uranus is in retrograde, then you better watch out, or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Oh, yeah, this pattern. Yeah, this reverse bull trap, guys. I would buy now. Like, whew.
The bull flags and the bear flags, and like, I don't day trade coins at all. And I don't day trade NFTs either. But this, I can see that charting NFTs could be valuable in the future once we get more and better data, because you do need to be able to somehow quantify, to some extent, the sentiment around a project and what they've delivered in the past, what they can deliver and plan to deliver in the future, because all of that plays into the floor price. Like, the floor price of a project is focused on what's to come, like what they've done in the past and how well they can execute on the stuff in the future. Like, you gauge their ability to execute in the future on what they've already delivered, in my opinion. And that's really kind of hard to chart. So I think that this was just kind of maybe like a clickbaity engagement farming kind of thing, which is fine. But I don't think that people taking this as gospel of like, oh yeah, we can totally chart the floor price of any NFT and trade it just like we can in crypto. Like, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, good luck trying to like plot out or like chart out like a collection with like 80 sales or something. Like, it's gonna look so goofy, And in general, there's just like, with crypto, there's like I don't even know how many transactions there are, but there must be like in the gazillions, right? Like,
on a daily basis, like, there's a shit ton.
Yeah, like, and at that point you have so many like information points to work with, or whatever, data points to work with, that it's becomes, you can chart it, like, at least you can chart the numbers accurately, right? But yeah, I don't know about like these graph science people at all. Like, I don't even know if it works. If you can look at a chart and be like, draws lines and be like, yes, according to my lines, this chart go up. I don't know.
Yeah, and after the very first I'm going to keep it on BAYC because that's what he was talking about in his tweet. After the first BAYC roadmap finished up last year, the treasure hunt was the very last thing on there.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, well, the floor is going to keep crashing. they've already delivered on anything. What else can they do? And then they released their second roadmap. They started talking about all these things. The value went up. Now people are at the same point. It's like, oh, they've dropped their token. They dropped other deeds. There's nothing else they can do to add value moving forward. And while I don't want them to drop a whole lot of other stuff, I still think that there are other things that this team can do with the connections they have. And like, it's a smart group, and they're bringing on smart people to work with them. There's plenty they can do to continue to drive value to the project, and I think they will, which is why this analysis, once again, is like very short-sighted and in a vacuum, and I don't think that's the right way to look at NFTs.
Amen. And
Amen.
Amen, brother. And in general as well, like prices are so driven by action, right? Like, oh, BAYC dropped a new this, or they announced a new that, and that influences. Like, it doesn't even matter if you can theorize about lines all day, every day if you want, but it could, at any time, the price could just go up immensely or go down immensely. It doesn't matter at what point, in what sort of structure it is on a graph. If BAYC suddenly tweets like, guys, we're no longer gonna support Bored Apes or something, like some like the craziest shit, and the floor just goes like, wee, and then there's nothing on that chart where you could be like, yeah, my lines indicated that it's gonna dump really hard, so it just kind of,
which
yeah,
goes into what we talked about earlier of like, yeah, NFTs are crazy speculative.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to take away, I was listening to a really good just economics Twitter discussion, like Twitter Spaces with some really sharp guys, and they were like, if you're a day trader, you look at numbers. If you're a medium to long-term trader, you look at like larger conditions. You make a thesis based around what you believe the best bet to be, and that's not going to show up in a chart. And you can't. There's not enough liquidity to really day trade. The only NFTs you can day trade are these like free mints, like Genuine Undead. And other like ones that pump really quickly, but for the most part, like, good luck like day trading any of these mid to larger cap NFTs. Like, it's not gonna really work.
It would be the most boring shit. Imagine buying like a Doodles or something, having to wait 12 hours for the floor to move, and like either up or down, and then selling it again or something for like break even minus like fees or something. Imagine
it's one thing if the day comes where it's easier to like short an NFT project like you can with a stock or a crypto, but until that day comes, I think trying to use this technical analysis and these charts is basically pointless.
For sure. I definitely agree.
In the interim, what you should do is continue to watch Web3 and Me, presented by FLOLiO. So I think on that note, we're going to wrap up today's show. Thank you once again for everyone who watches. I speak for Dan and myself when I say that we really appreciate it. Like, we enjoy doing this show. It means a lot when people tune in. Please like it, subscribe, share it. We want to try to continue to put out, good content as often as possible. So I think that's a great place to wrap it today. For Dan, for the rest of the team at FLOLiO, I am Jeremy. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.